So hello, Merry Christmas everyone. I'm not sure if this video will go out at Christmas, but I'm recording it at Christmas, so Merry Christmas. Welcome to another video. This is the basic profession guide for the Elementalist or Tempest. We're going to be talking about the skills, the specializations, maybe some combat, also the strengths and weaknesses of the profession as a whole. So, let's get our customary warning out of the way. Warning! This video is not for seasoned players. If you understand how the Tempest profession works, this video is not for you. Thanks for listening. Well, there you go. There's my customary warning. Let's get straight on with the video. So, let's go into the pros and cons. What are the pros of this profession? Well, it's pro, and it's singular, but it's very important. Elementalist is the highest damaging profession in the game, bar none. That's it. That's all the pros there are from the thing. But it does actually make the profession worthwhile playing. If you want those super big red numbers to come up on your screen, those massive crits, that really high damage per second, Ellie is where it's at. In terms of cons, what we have is a very squishy profession. If you see down here, the health bar is the lowest equal with Guardian and Thief in terms of a health bar. And you're in light armor as well, which makes you super squishy in terms of just taking large damage hits. Secondly, for a con, you would have the fact that it's a very complex profession. As you might see here, we've got Earth Attunement, Air Attunement, Water Attunement, and Fire Attunement. All of these bring up 5 new skills for whatever weapon you have equipped. And then on top of that, we have conjure skills like Summon Fiery Greatsword, which brings up even more skills, and Conjure Frostbow, which brings up even more skills. So there's a lot of skills to talk about here. So I'm actually not going to go through every skill. Instead, I'm going to break it down for you in what I feel is the simplest way. So the first thing to mention is that I'm going to be focusing in this guide on the staff, the basic staff Elementalist build. There are a number of other builds floating around out there, particularly the Fresh Air Ellie builds. They're also quite interesting to play around with. I would recommend, if you get the hang of the basic staff, or if you enjoy the Elementalist in general, go out there, research Fresh Air Tempest builds. They can be a lot of fun too. However, I really enjoy the basic staff build, and as far as I'm aware, it's actually the highest damage Ellie build that you can make. So, we're going to be talking about that today. I'm going to briefly go over how the profession works in general, to begin with. So what we have is we have 4 different attunements, and you can see we're currently in Air Attunement. These are all lightning skills, and then if I switch to Fire, all these skills are based on fire, and Water, all these skills are based on water. And you'll see that some of these things are recharging. So the attunements I've just used are recharging for me to go back into the attunement, but the attunement I'm on is actually recharging for an ability called Overload. And what you can do in certain attunements is overload to get different kinds of spells. So if I overload water, for example, you can see here it gives me quite a lot of healing and some condition removal. And that looks like this. This is one of the reasons I really like Elementalist on Asura as well. All the animations are very good. And then Overload Fire is a nice might generating and also quite high damaging, like little spinny field here. And then on Air, you can see Overload Air is regenerating, and this is a high vulnerability giving lightning field that it creates at the end. And then on Earth, you can see it's also similar, but it generates stability at the area. So Those are what the overload skills does and how you access them. You essentially switch to an attunement and then you wait for the overload skill to recharge, and then they're a channeled cast like this. So that's basically how the things work. The rest I'm going to break down into skills that are worth using and skills that are not. So how I'm going to decide this is I'm going to say certain abilities are damage efficient. And what do I mean by damage efficient? Well, if I just auto attack something, I'm going to be doing in fire, for example. I'm going to be doing 1,147 damage per auto attack, so which takes 1 second. So someone behind the scenes has worked out which skills of all of the Elementalist skills do more damage than auto attacking, which is the highest auto attack, incidentally, per time that it takes to cast them. So essentially it's worth using because if I was to just auto attack, I would put out less damage than using that skill. So that's how we're going to decide what skills are worth using. And I'm just going to go through the skills that are high damagey on the Ellie. So generally speaking, Fire Attunement is where your damage is, and Lava Font is a very nice high damaging ability. Puts down a field which persists for a while. Flame Burst, also a nice damaging ability. Burning Retreat is a nice damaging ability if you can roll through your target and leave this sort of fire field through them. It also is a nice way to evade backwards if you're in trouble. And then Meteor Shower, very iconic Elementalist skill. Very high damaging skill as well. So that's everything in Fire Attunement, and obviously Overload Fire as well. In Water Attunement, there are no damage efficient spells. So we'll come back to Water Attunement maybe a bit later, but worth remembering. Then in Air Attunement, we have Overload Air, that is damage efficient. And none of these are damage efficient spells. However, I'm going to just quickly point to my utility skill at this point. So what we've picked in one of our utility skills is Glyph of Storms, and this is create a storm based on your attunement. So in fire, it creates a firestorm, in ice, ice storm, and so on. In lightning, it creates a high damaging ability. So one of your utility spells becomes very good in air attunement. And then earth, again, we have no high damaging abilities. So most of your damaging abilities are in fire attunement, all of the spells here, and air attunement. We also have a couple of conjure weapons here, so I'm going to quickly go through them. The only damaging abilities that are efficient here are the number 3 spell, which is this sort of fan, and you're trying to get as close as possible when you fire it, so all of those arrows hit the target that you're firing at. And then Ice Storm, which is again a very iconic Ellie spell, which does a lot of damage. Then in Fiery Greatsword, you might not be using Fiery Greatsword, but I'm going to go through it anyway. We have the number 4 skill and the number 5 skill, which are damage efficient spells. So this does a little run forward, but if I had a target, it would actually leap and do a large damaging attack on the target as well. So those are the damaging abilities on the profession. I am going to quickly mention that despite the fact that I've just pointed out the damaging abilities, I recommend you read through every skill. And why is that? Well, I've pointed out the damage abilities, but there are some very useful utility spells in the Ellie's kit as well. For example, in Air Attunement, number 4, you and nearby allies gain swiftness for 10 seconds. So when you're running around, you're going to be quick because you have access to this skill. In Earth Attunement, the number 3 skill, Magnetic Aura, reflects projectiles with magnetic energy. So you can sort of get the idea that amongst all of this are some useful spells in certain situations. It would take me far too long to go through every spell for every weapon that the Ellie has. I recommend you, as I said before, you read up, just read the tooltips. But I'm going to pay attention to the high damaging spells for the purposes of this guide. So, let's look at our utility skills. What do we have for the heal? We have Wash the Pain Away. This is a nice heal that actually, if you do it right next to someone, is going to heal for a large amount somebody else. So it's this nice little field here, and the closer you are to someone, the more healing they're going to get. Conjure Ice Bow and Conjure Fiery Greatsword we've already spoken about. The Glyph of Storms we've also already spoken about. That's the one you want to be using when you're in Air Attunement, because it generates vulnerability and has a very nice damage number on it. And then Signet of Fire, improve critical chance. This is just to bolster your damage. You're a damage profession, so that's what we're going to do here. So for equipment, what do we have? Well, if you've watched any of my other guides, you'll know that when you're talking about damage, there really is only one option. It's Berserker stats, or the Zolja prefix for Ascended Gear. And we have Zolja Berserkers with Runes of the Scholar, because Runes of the Scholar are the highest damaging runes in the game right now when you stay over 90%. And on Ellie, you will find most of the time you'll either be at full health or you'll be dead because of how squishy the profession is. And it makes it a very good pick for Elementalist. If you would like a sort of stopgap measure for cheap runes, I suggest Flame Legion runes are also very nice for Elementalist, particularly if you find that you're not staying above 90% very frequently. You should do, but it's up to you, I guess. But the most damage efficient is Runes of the Scholar. And then in the staff, we have a plus 5% damage Sigil of Force and a plus 7% critical chance Sigil of Accuracy. And those are just the highest damaging things. And again, over here, we've just got Zerk, 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 all the way. The equipment's very simple on this profession, so that's the equipment. So let's have a look at the specializations. As always, if you like, you could just pause it here and copy the build, and I'll put a link on the screen now, which links to after the specializations. But I am going to go through them because there are some important ones that do affect the way you play the profession. So what do we have? We have Fire, Air, and Tempest. In Fire, we have Burning Precision. Critical hits have a chance to cause burning, and burning lasts longer. So all skills that burn, do more damage, and you're going to randomly do more damage as well some of the time. Pyromancer's Training, deal more damage while attuned to fire, reduces the recharge on all fire weapon skills. So I said that the fire weapon skills are where most of your damage comes from. Reducing the recharge on them is great, and the fact that you have 10% more damage while you're in fire attunement is going to amplify that even more. More importantly, though, when you're using conjure abilities, like the Conjure Frostbow, just because these skills are ice-themed, it doesn't mean I'm not in fire attunement. So, this damage multiplier, while in fire attunement, will work on Frostfan and Ice Storm, the damage-efficient spells that I mentioned earlier. So, always try and be in fire attunement when you're using a conjure weapon. And then we have Persisting Flames. Executing blast finishers on fire fields grants fury. You won't be doing that much because there aren't that many blast finishers unless you particularly spec towards it. But more importantly, fire fields from your weapon skills last longer. So fire fields from Meteor Shower, fire fields from Lava Fonts. It's going to massively increase your damage and also make a lava font erupt when you go down, which can sometimes really help you get back up in a situation where you've gone down quickly. So, Air Attunement. We have Ferocious Winds. Gain Frosty based on your precision. Frosty is a crit damage multiplier, so this is just a nice little stat boost, which will up your damage. Gain precision while attuned to air. Reduce recharge on all air weapon skills. So, when you're using Glyph of Storms, when you're using Overload Air, they're just going to crit more because you have a higher precision, and you know the recharge on them is lower as well, so that's nice. And then Bolt to the Heart, deal more damage when your foe's health drops below the threshold. This obviously has a much greater effect on bosses, where there's going to be a long time in a fight where the foe's health will be lower than 50% and your damage increase will be 20% higher. So that's a really nice damaging ability, trait rather. And then here's where you have a slight little bit of choice, I guess. Trigger Eye of the Storm when foes attempt to control you by stun, daze, knockback. So Eye of the Storm, as you can see here, is a break stun. It's a shout, so it's instant. And it also gives you super speed. But more importantly, it's a break stun. So trigger Eye of the Storm when a foe attempts to control you by a stun. So someone stuns you and you break stun. So it's a free break stun, essentially, without actually having to put it on your bar at all. It's every 40 seconds you can make one mistake, which, you know, is the ideal situation. You don't make more than one mistake in 40 seconds. Harmonious Conduit. Gain stability when beginning an overload. Upon successfully completing an overload, gain increased damage for an amount of time. So this is a useful trait to stop you getting interrupted when you're overloading. The overload is slightly longer than the duration of the stability here, but it can stop you from being interrupted while you're casting the Overload Air and Overload Fire in your damage rotations. So, and then Imbued Melodies. While wielding a Warhorn, your boon duration is increased. Not interested in that bit because we're not using a Warhorn. Use Sand Score when struck below the health threshold. So when you're struck below the health threshold, which is 90%, it says you're not really going to be lower than 90% a lot of the time, but if you are and you are struck, you will gain protection, which is for a Tempest minus 40%, not minus 33 because of this trait here, Hardy Conduit. So minus 40% damage, and you gain a magnetic aura which reflects projectiles. It can be nice in certain situations. But more importantly, every 30 seconds it will increase the duration of all boons currently existing on you and your allies. So you won't be boon generating for your team, but every 30 seconds, if you get hit by lower than 90%, you will increase the boon duration of your allies, which will help with boon duration of the entire party. So that's the specializations. So I've come to the aerodrome to demonstrate some combat on this profession. Now I'm not gonna talk you through the rotation I'm going to use. I'm just here to demonstrate the kind of damage you can get on an Ellie. If you really put the effort in, you can get some nice numbers. I do want to also preface this by saying I'm by no means professional at this class. I enjoy playing it, and I can play it to a reasonable degree. And I would also say that the rotations for the profession are constantly changing. So don't take what I've done here as like the best thing to do by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just here to try and demonstrate how good at damaging the Ellie is. So let's give it a bash. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones we used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. Then I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, with every Christmas card I write. May your days, may your days, may your days be merry and bright, and may all your Christmas just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. So you could be staring at the screen right now thinking, oh my god, I can't possibly do that. And I wouldn't advise going straight to the hardest rotations you can find out there. And believe me, it wasn't even the best rotation that's available. It was just one I learned about a month ago when the patch hit. I just wanted to demonstrate the kind of damage that you could put out on an Ellie, and it's really nice. The numbers are really there on this profession, and it makes it the top damage profession in the game, bar none. And because the game is all about damage, Ellies have a big place in the game right now. So I'm not going to go over the specifics of what I did. If you like, you can rewind and watch it. It's not optimal. Like, there are better rotations out there that you can find on, like, QT's website and things like that. But the point I wanted to demonstrate is essentially what I was talking about before. The fire skills are all worth using. The Conjure Frostbow number 3 and number 4 are worth using. The Conjure Fiery Greatsword number 5 and number 4 are worth using. Overload Fire is worth using, and Overload Air is worth using, and Lightning Storm is worth using. And that may have been a lot of information in 30 seconds, so maybe I'll try and put a graphic up on the screen about what your actual useful skills are, and then, of course, Overload Air being the last one. Yeah, just to clarify, essentially what I did everything fast there, but nothing is beyond anyone in this game in terms of just working out how to get the most damage, how to get the most out of your profession. So here's something I'm going to do that I've never done before. I'm going to recommend equipment. So once you've started playing this game for a while, you suddenly realize you have a lot of buttons to press, and you have a lot of buttons to press pretty fast. So some of you will have changed your keyboard around so that, you know, some of the utility skills maybe are closer to your WASD keys, so when you're moving around, you don't have to move your hand much. I found the F keys to not be in a good place for playing Guild Wars, so I set out to find a mouse that I could put my F keys on. And there's, I've picked out a few here, just so I don't get accused of being sponsored by someone. First, I'll click over to the Corsair. This is a gaming mouse with a number of buttons on the side, so you could even have like your skill buttons on the side if you like. Personally, I think that's too many buttons, but it will do the job. This is the mouse I personally use at the moment, and yeah, it's quite costly or whatever, but I figured it was worth it for a lifetime of gaming, having those buttons on the side of the mouse. And I put F1 on this one, F2 on this one, F3 on this one, and F4 on this one, and I randomly have auto run on that one. So I've got all the F keys, sorry, F5 and then auto run on that one, beg your pardon. I've got all the F keys on the side of my mouse, so I can switch quickly between attunements very easily on Elementalist. So I'm not going to dwell too long on this. I just wanted to say how I can switch quickly without really, you know, that much trouble. So let's quickly go over the consumables. And what do we have? We have, for food, a bowl of seaweed salad. So this is becoming pretty standard across most professions. You may have seen while I was doing the rotations on the kitty bot, I was sort of strafing side to side all the time. That is to keep this plus 10% damage while moving up. It's a huge damage boost, particularly during casts like Meteor Shower and, you know, Ice Storm. So it really is worth getting. And then Toxic Sharpening Stones, plus 100 power, and condition duration is increased by 10%. You'd be surprised how much the condition duration increase does actually affect your end damage, because you do quite a lot of burning actually from your traits. Traits like critical hits have a chance to cause burning, and burning lasts longer. If I can find where the burning lasts longer trait is. Oh, right, it's the same trait. Burning precision. But the point being, you're going to do a fair amount of burning, and this skill actually actively puts burning on your target. So this condition duration actually does up your damage a fair amount. So those are the two optimal foods. You can also get a bowl of asparagus and sage salad. That does plus 8%, so that's like a sort of budget option. And you can also get a regular superior sharpening stone, which essentially gives you just 100 power and not the condition duration. Again, for a slightly more budget option in terms of consumables. So that about wraps it up. I just wanted to say a very Merry Christmas to everyone watching. And thanks for doing so. Tell a friend.